All right, we're here with episode 3 of It's Server Time, and as you guys can see, we have Clone Note, and we have him twice now on the far right with Launders there. I think the way it works with brown people in the scene, and I can say this as a semi-brown person, like this is the privilege you get as a mixed person, is that you can kind of take whatever color you want to fit your own agenda.
Imagine if I just came in with that, like Jesus Christ.
From the airlock.
Yeah. Honestly. So is that everyone in the scene now, Launders, is now just budget you? So E-Mode came in, he was budget Launders. I don't know, Note, is he budget E-Mode or is it budget you? And this is your take. You're on the hot seat.
E-Mode's kind of moved out a little bit. I think Note's coming in, so he can take the second place spot. I think E-Mode, he started making content for MIBR and MIBR dissolved, so
okay.
I'm not saying there's a correlation there, but can he be trusted?
No. Note is his own person, a unique human. Definitely not the budget of anybody else. In fact, he writes more than some of the other Browns in the scene. So we'll move on from this point. I don't want to keep going on this. I don't know why I chose this angle coming into this one, but it's just what was on the top of my head. So all right, let's get into it. Launders here will be at the upcoming DreamHack, if I'm not mistaken. Had a little bit of a break in the scene. We won't get into that either. But let's talk about games. Let's talk about why we're actually here. We're here for Counter-Strike, and we are here to talk about what just happened at IEM New York, which happened in EU, of course. Interesting title. So let's keep it loose. So I'm gonna start with you, Mix. Of the top 4 teams at New York EU, who was the best team tactically speaking?
I don't know if I'd say they're the best tactically. I guess that's also kind of like a hard thing to answer, but my favorite at least is OG, because they actually kind of remind me a lot of how XC9 used to play our team, and just that like how they have a lot more set things, especially on their T side and CT side, like a lot of set plays, and they kind of always know what they're doing. Like on their CT side, there's always a play for like aggression. They always have like something in mind. They're not just like sitting around and waiting, which I really like on their CT sides. And their T sides are pretty aggressive. They're always like, there's always like a plan from the start, like Alexi B or someone's like trying to get out and do something. So I think my favorite team at least is OG, but I also really like the diversity of Fnatic and how diverse they are and can be like mid round and mid game. And that's also something that I don't think OG quite has as much of. So maybe if I was going to say best, I might say actually Fnatic, especially on LAN. I think their style works really well. Just overall, just it's so useful and like diverse, and it's just really good.
Yeah, I think in general, I would say Fnatic is definitely my favorite out of those 4, tactically speaking. But specifically for New York, I think that OG just looked a little bit more well-rounded. Fnatic was a little bit shakier than I've seen them before, but overall, I would say Fnatic would be the more fundamental, better team that I enjoy watching from a tactical perspective out of those 4. But OG was the one I did enjoy watching this tournament specifically.
I had problems with everybody. I mean, I'm a huge OG shill. I have yet to get merchandise, but I've been trying my ass off for like almost a full year now. I picked them 3 times at Blast, and I was like, right, I think 2 out of the 3 times when no one else picked them, and it was kind of a joke at first, but I just like Alexi B for reasons other than necessarily just like how good the team is. Like I love him in interviews. I like his IGLing style. I find him interesting. But I just did a demo on Alexi B today, and it felt like Mix is saying, OG have all these great ideas every round. There's direction, but then it feels like they don't dry run or something. Like the execution sometimes is really poor, and then the talent is a big question too. So I love watching them play, but you're always just constantly disappointed at the same time.
Yeah, Alexi B can sometimes strike me as the kind of IGL where they may have gone into a game with a set game plan, but then, 5 rounds in, he recognizes something that's different than what he may have anti-stratted, or maybe it's just straight up they're playing off of an anti-strat. And so they, like you said, they don't dry run it. So it's kind of like, okay, they had this idea, but until they actually get into the server and they're actually facing somebody trying to execute whatever style this round is, then it can be a little bit rougher for them. And that's sometimes what IGLs do. And I think this is something when I was on Space Station where sometimes we'll see something that is totally exploitable, but unless we actually ran it in a match before, it's pretty hard to put it together on the fly, such as that. So sometimes your reads can't be quite. I mean, they can be on point and they can be correct in theory, but execution is a totally different story, and it's why it makes Counter-Strike such an interesting game to watch, because sometimes the theory was completely right, but you whiff the shot, and you just have to just get upset at your own mechanics in that sense. All right, so staying on that point though, OG's run to the finals. We're all fans of them, it seems like. How would you guys classify their style of play? Would you guys say, like, just for a viewer at home, would you guys say this is like a loose, aggressive style? Would you guys say it's more of a passive kind of set play style? What words would you guys use?
I would actually say more like set aggressive from like what I saw, especially a lot of the time. Just kind of like going off based on what I said there, but yeah, more of like, because Alexi B as an IGL is also someone that's gonna be more in like the thick of the action, and like he's gonna be putting himself in positions to like make plays and have a lot of impact. So it's kind of a lot more of a like there's like a set thing, but it's also pretty aggressive just because of that aspect. So Alexi B is obviously very active. He's trying to do a lot compared to like other IGLs like Golden that are more so just kind of on the edges of the map, or especially on their CT sides, like kind of just anchoring and not doing as much. So I think in that way, I'd kind of consider them more set aggressive.
Yeah, I see that too. I mean, I watched that Mirage game, like the entire T side. I don't know if it's because like N-steady defaults too much or something, but they didn't go mid one time. I think they were mid like one anti-eco. The rest of the rounds, they either did a full B exec or a full A exec. All their A execs failed, all their B execs hit, and they like killed Kirby, Brokey, and coldzera in the same few seconds. But it's weird because like what's good about them is that, like, I think like you were saying, Maui, sometimes they will call something in a round. You can see that it's because of a piece of information. They'll just like all group up and hit something, and they don't really waste time to get there. But once they execute, it's not always the perfect execution, and so it does feel like they're kind of calling on the fly. But I think it's definitely true. I feel like they're both a mix of aggressive and like kind of a fixed execute style.
Yeah, I think that's definitely around where they're at. I think they definitely struggle a bit with their mid rounds once they're actually into sites sometimes. Like they struggle to adapt just on the fly. But for sure, in terms of like their general style, they do just execute and do it pretty aggressively. So I would concur with that.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes the players don't always have a lot of agency on the team, and I can tell that everybody has bought into the OG, just like the idea of Alexi B being this one voice IGL. But sometimes you can see that sometimes the plans are just weird. I remember there was one round against FaZe on Dust 2 where it's like they're in a post-plant situation, and they have a little bit of cat space. They have space towards site, but it's a 4v5, and they noted they need to do something to try to find an advantage. And like 3 people jumped from cat into CT spawn, and there were just 3 FaZe players there, and it's like you never really see that, especially like, so it's kind of like Alexi B is just like his brain just kind of like light bulb went off. Guys, I think we can catch them as we jump into CT spawn, right? And then it's like you see 3 dudes just jump down, and then coldzera, Kirby are like, what the fuck? And then they just shoot them as they're falling into them. It's like, okay, sure. And then the round's over right there. And I like that they all trust Alexi B, but sometimes, and I think we're all getting onto this point now, that it's just they like the ideas behind it are just really haphazard and just like really on the fly, and like it's like the thing is, if you're a player in that situation, are you really going to be like, nah, fuck that, I'm a stay here on catwalk and let you guys all die because everyone's going to see you, and they're like, what the hell is that? Why are you there? So I think that is kind of a like just a micro instance of this greater picture of ideas being sometimes a little half-baked at times. And I really like how they get map control. I like how on CT side they use their utility very efficiently. Like I feel like every piece of utility from OG had some purpose in a round. I rarely see them waste nades, but sometimes in those like tense moments, it feels like if Alexi B isn't on point with a call, that team can just fall apart at the drop of a hat.
It's like everybody wants to be Furia, but no one wants a deathmatch.
Yeah.
All want to have tons of fun playing Counter-Strike, but they're not prepared for that aggression.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have the same, because Alexi B is backed up by, and obviously like naturally MBK and Valdi are gonna have like their own ideas at times, or like just kind of naturally like kind of conflict. Like it's just something that's naturally going to happen because they've opened IGLs in the past. Whereas with Fury, I think it's all just like, okay, whatever Art does, and then we just do whatever he says, and we're just aiming. Whereas with OG, it's a lot less, because like kind of like what I said on Fury is like with Fury, it's like all the same language, but with OG, it's more like Alexi B is kind of like this guy, but it's, you know, an international team, so the comms are never going to be like that great or that perfect. So it can be really hard to always like really execute well, especially if it's not something you've dry run.
Well, the other thing is also with Furia, like a lot of their mid rounds are planned already around what Art's going to do. Like they've already pre-planned, or they've dry run stuff to adapt whether Art gets a kill or not with this play. Whereas, as I said earlier, with OG, it's like some of their mid rounds just fall apart because you can tell they haven't been in those situations before. Or they haven't actually drilled to adapt to some of those.
Yeah, it sometimes does feel like Alexi B just the messiah that needs to be listen. I mean, like Art is kind of in a similar sense, but Art puts everything on the line, and like you said, no, it's just kind of like they know what's coming next after Art makes XYZ play, because he actually kind of repeats his plays at times. It's not just something on the fly all the time. I wanted to touch on really briefly that it looks like to me that OG brought a lot of anti-strat to the table when we saw them at this tournament. I remember twice against Fnatic on pistol rounds. There was once on Train where Alexi B just with the timing naded above ladder and did like over 100 damage with a single grenade on a pistol. And then on Inferno, they double naded the apartment window where Golden was jumping across. So on a pistol round again, they bought 2 HEs, which is just pretty unheard of for the T side. And they caught him crossing, 5v4 advantage, were able to convert the round. So that, to me, says that OG went into this tournament with a lot of anti-stratting. Do you think, moving forward, that they are going to have to continue bringing that level of preparation in terms of anti-stratting? Or do you guys think that OG has maybe turned a page and will begin just making finals regularly now? Is this a one-off that they made this finals, or will it continue to happen?
I don't think it's necessarily like a one-off. I mean, obviously in this online era especially, it's always going to be hard to replicate the same form. And over the course of what we've seen from OG the past like 6 months, I probably wouldn't put my money on it that they're going to be like consistently making finals now. And I have to imagine that they always kind of have like a similar level of anti-stratting, just because I don't think teams normally change that much in terms of their preparation. I also think, I don't know if Rugga's like helping them still or not. So I don't know how much that's changed for them, but I think the anti-strat is probably just kind of like a normal part of how they play, and I assume it's just something that Alexi B is comfortable with always doing, and I imagine he's probably not comfortable calling if he doesn't know what the other team's doing. He doesn't have a plan for what the other team is going to be coming at him with, so I imagine the anti-stratting is just kind of like a general part of OG's playstyle, but I don't know if that'll carry over into other tournaments and consistently making finals.
It's a bit of conjecture, of course, but he doesn't strike me as the type to be like a blame F to really like lean super hard into anti-stratting. And I think he has just like I feel like a very balanced philosophy on like how to play, you know, try to be loose enough to activate your stars, but not too strict that they're, you know, throwing nades when they're uncomfortable, but then also make sure you're also executing some of the time. And it's just a jambalaya really of kind of different like approaches all in the same game.
Yeah.
So I don't that doesn't strike. I did see it. So in that Mirage game, I also saw like a what I call a demo kill now, where it seems like they did fast get right and get left smokes on B Mirage, and then when they ran out, Alexi B actually threw a nade from B window off of the pillar itself, so that it landed within the site, and then coldzera walked in through the smoke, and he just sprayed the smoke down and killed coldzera pushing the smoke. So it felt like he called out coldzera for pushing the get right and get left smokes into the site. And I was like, he didn't hear him, he didn't see him. He must have certainly like saw coldzera makes that play a lot. So I'm assuming some tactics are designed around getting those opening kills, because that seriously is such an important stat, of course, like just getting the opening frag on a site. But it doesn't, to me, feel like he's going to base entire game plans around it. And no one's got the work ethic of blame F. I feel like it's so unreasonable to just anti-strat all day long. Like,
the thing with that is also like in terms of like finding a strat like that to anti-strat like Blamef did is like it's also only something that comes around when like the opportunity like presents itself to you. Like not every team on every map is gonna have something like that you can do on every map. There are like certain situations. So I assume like what LXB does is you just kind of go through, you kind of see what a team's doing, you kind of see what they're giving you, what you can find to exploit. You kind of find out how you want to approach it, and then from there, if there's like certain strats that you think you can hard anti-strat, or like certain things that you think you can like really hard counter, then you might go for that. But I don't think it's necessarily something that they'll go into like the match before they prep, being like, yeah, this is how we're gonna want to play and how we're gonna want to do things.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was during last like the LAN at the start of the year or which event it was, but I remember there was some event where OG's a part of their comms were released, and it was Alexi B basically talking about how they had anti-strat at a team heading into a match, and they realized maybe 2 or 3 rounds in, and he said it that, hey guys, we don't really know what they're doing. They're not doing what we expected them to do, so forget everything that we basically anti-stratted them on and just play our own game. And like that's a really early adaptation to make, like 2-3 rounds into a match, but it shows that like they have a set idea going into matches, but if they're not seeing what they expect, they're very quick to change off of that as well. As far as them making more finals is concerned, I mean, it's a possibility. I don't think it's going to be a consistent thing for them as a team, though. Just because if you take a look at New York, like Astralis was not there, mousesports were not there, 2 teams that are looking like a little more hot recently. Also, FaZe had this like fluke, maybe not fluke run, but this sort of like run out of nowhere after having not great
the
form
death run.
recently. We'll yeah, exactly, the death run. So I don't know if I see them making finals consistently, but I do think they do a very good job adapting if they don't see what they expect in a server.
I'll just pose it like this to simplify the question. So at DreamHack, the upcoming DreamHack Europe, there are 16 teams in attendance. OG is there. Everybody down the line, I usually say predictions to the end, but let's just go down the line. Where do we think OG is going to be ending up here? And you can go down to the precise placing because RMR events play down to like 5th place, 7th place. Like they make these
well, their group is Vitality, Fnatic, OG, and Mouse, so that can range anywhere from like 1st to last.
Yeah,
I feel like so.
It's rough. It's super rough.
So my prediction is, I have no idea.
I don't know who wins this
anything
group.
I said. Anything I
feel
say
like
is
everyone
just guessing.
gets 2nd place in this group.
Yeah, exactly.
None of them are good enough to get 1st, but someone has to. Maybe Vitality, probably the team that has like blown, like not has been the most consistent of the 4 in the past year or whatever.
Here's my prediction then. So I'm gonna say Vitality is gonna be 2nd, and then like one of these other teams will be 1st, and then the other 2 will go out. And that's how I imagine it'll go down.
Really bold with that one.
I think OG end up in the 9th to 12th area. Okay. I don't think they make it out of groups here.
Fuck it, I'll just go for them again because I did last time. So I'll say OG 1st in this group.
I'll take OG as well.
2nd. Yep.
Wow.
I think I'll go with that. I don't feel like Vitality will get 1st.
I'm just gonna shill for OG again.
I'm gonna go with Fnatic. I'll go with Fnatic out of this one, number 1. But I believe in Fnatic a lot always, and sometimes it comes back to bite me.
But what
I like
if
all
they
these
don't believe in
teams, so I'm
themselves?
kind of sad that 2 of them have to go out.
Yeah, these are great teams.
Did you watch Did you watch Fnatic? Or you did. You watched Fnatic OG. I remember you actually tweeted at me about it. Remember how like Fnatic were like completely despondent in the 2nd map, and I was like, "What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
The
third map. The third map.
The third map. Yeah.
Yeah. On Mirage, right? They just looked like they were super sloppy. Why don't we get into Fnatic just briefly here? And so they came in top 4 at this tournament, and they lost to OG. The teams that they beat were in the group stage. They beat out G2. And then they beat a Complexity with NATO Sapphics. But then they lost to OG in 3 maps. And they lost their map pick of Train. They won OG's map pick of Inferno. And that was pretty convincing, actually. But then they fell pretty flat on Mirage. For those that caught it, I guess launders, what did you see from them? Or like, how did that feel to you? What do you think the emotions were like on that team in map 3?
there's probably not a lot of I feel like they could have performed just as well without Discord in that match. They look like they were all playing on about 200 or 300 ping.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel like they cared very much. Like I feel like I could see inside Flesh's head and there was just nothing. It was just black. You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like they were in it at all. And I know that was by their own choice as well. Like they weren't like actively trying to get out of this emo ness. Instead, they were just living in it, just existing, knowing that it was gonna end badly. But it felt like they were very fatalistic on Mirage and knew they were going to lose and just accepted it.
So you think Golden busted out some nihilism in map 3 there, just like whatever happens,
he actually seems like an eternal optimist though, right? Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
What was Golden thinking? Was he just like, oh man, well this is just too much to control. I'm gonna be happy by myself, but I can't win this game for my team.
He started just adopting Taoist principles in this match. Just let it all come to him. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, anybody else got any thoughts about what we saw from Fnatic this tournament?
No, I feel like it's just kind of more what have been seen. Just kind of like just averageness. It feels like up and down. I really like how they play, but it's hard, especially online. It feels like to be super consistent with it when you're just kind of like defaulting every round and then just kind of playing it out your mid rounds and going from there. So decent result, I think, but just kind of like another result from them. Same old.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on to the champions then. FaZe clan, FaZe up in the chat. They, with a 3-0 victory, actually did not drop any maps this entire tournament except for the 2-0 loss to OG in the winners match of their own group. So this was a really sick run from FaZe clan. And that being said, some of the games were a little bit close, especially map 1 of the grand finals going to 2 overtimes. Yeah. And other than that, though, they kind of dismantled teams in a few of their games. Like the Inferno game against OG was a complete stomp. So what did we like out of FaZe this time?
This is like the prime example of like what FaZe of KRB could be. If I don't even know what's gonna happen after this tournament, but because like KRB just feels like all the other spots, like, you know, like the B lurker, like the B anchor and all these maps. And so when he's playing well, like he did at this event, like a 1.12 rating, and you have like so you have like that guy that's like popping off and playing well, he's playing comfortably. That gives you like such like a different dynamic to your whole team, and like it just opens up so many different doors and like opportunities when that guy's playing well. Because KRB like on the edge of the map, like be site lurking while his teammates are in mid on Mirage, and he's just constantly having impact or having to, you know, hold B by himself on Mirage and just constantly getting like a 3K. Like having that option, having that guy playing well consistently, like having impact is just can completely change a team. Like it can completely change like how you're able to play and what you can do and like what your options are and what's going to work for you.
He seemed to take a bit more agency recently with just his positions and like some of the risks he takes, and also just, I mean, he powered up with the AUG as well. I mean, he really is just going to be like, I can't stand the thought of thinking that we're going to go through another Krieg level situation where everybody on Twitter. I'm gonna have to mute. I'm gonna have to mute the word, like I know it's coming, but you know, the AUG wasn't really nerfed. It's super strong on CT side. It's, you know, can kill just a bit faster, and that's all the edge you need. And we saw KRB really just cleaned up so many rounds with the AUG. He's using it on Train. He's using it on Mirage B side, Train IV, and just owning. And coming into the event, they won their last 2 series. KRB started to get a bit better. And then through the event, he really kind of came into his own, and it felt like he was just less scared, I guess, to play on FaZe.
Yeah,
and
like
I think that's a big difference.
Because I was watching back from like EPL to New York, and I didn't see like a huge difference in how they were playing like macro wise. I feel like they were kind of taking the same approach, kind of like the same ideas, and it just felt like, because obviously, I mean, it was still like a fairly new lineup too. That said, like KRB was fairly new, so him, you know, struggling the first 2 events and playing well now isn't like the craziest thing, and, you know, starting to feel comfortable in the team, especially with all the names in the team, the fact that it's very hard to comfortably fit in around because he has to play like very set spots. So I think just him getting more comfortable in that role and just really kind of like finding himself in that really just adds a lot to FaZe.
Yeah, KRB, it almost feels like when Config joined Complexity, where it was like a bit shaky at first for him, but he eventually found his form. Like KRB, I find really similar to the point where he dropped off for a while, and he's sort of finding his redemption arc on FaZe right now, at least in this specific tournament. obviously, like Mirage for them was shaky given their B hold in regulation. It was getting abused a lot, but like I think once Kirby sort of, if he continues being as comfortable in the team as he looked as in this tournament, then it'll definitely do well for him. But given some of the rumors with Nico being rumored to be out of this team, then that may not really last.
Do you have a source? Cold Zero's mom? That's weird.
Oh my god.
Provided by infamous professional player Instagram mom stalker Ryan at Rushby Media.
I was following Cold Zero's second cousin on Twitter, and he said in a tweet the words "he stay." So I don't know how you guys interpret that one, but for me, I think everyone on G2 is going to stay where they are. So, but sources, just sources, you know. But okay, I like that you brought up that FaZe is shaky on Mirage Note, because I have a lot to say about their Mirage. Like, it is kind of shaky, and it's weird because it was their map pick for pretty much this entire tournament. I think the only time they didn't pick it was against OG, where they picked D2. And I think it was kind of, to me, it feels like FaZe has kind of been going through what do they think is their home map right now. And that was kind of apparent at ESL Pro League, where they picked, I think, Train, they picked Dust 2, I think they picked Inferno one time, then they also picked Mirage. But at this tournament, it was pretty much Mirage, except for that single series. And they actually went undefeated at Mirage at this tournament. And even though by the eye test, it's a shaky Mirage, like you said, that CTB hold between Kirby and Cold, like there's a lot of kinks that you have to iron out there. But it's kind of cool that FaZe have found their home map, and of all the maps, it really just feels like that should be the FaZe map, right? Surely, Mirage of all maps should be the one that they're succeeding on. It's just like a map that really can favor individuals popping off on any given round, and when something goes wrong, you can just always rely on a player to just find a multi-frag, even on entries.
Yeah, they should just be like dominating on that map, considering they have like Rain playing A site, Nico and Khan, Brokey's like their opper, Cold Zera infamously the fucking goat cat player. And then Kirby on B, like that setup, like if they can get more comfortable and continue to, really dial that down, should just be absolutely like insane. But it's still something that they aren't fully there with yet.
I have a question about their Mirage. Their CT sides, they play like they like don't bust open the grates, and then they'll play extremely passive. Like they sometimes veto having a jungle player at all. They'll play like 2A site, 1 CT spawn, or 1 market, 2B, 2A site or something, and like leave window completely open. Sometimes they leave ladder room completely open. And I've always viewed that as an option that you can have, but not one that you really want to like base your whole CT side around, because you give up that much control, you should be losing a lot of the time. Now you might not lose a guy in the first 40 seconds, which is maybe why you want to do that, but ultimately, like you give someone like ladder window control, like your sites become so much weaker. Why do they do that?
Something that's become more meta just when the bench was added to Mirage, because it's really hard to like consistently control that area throughout the whole map. And like, so to get in the window, you obviously have to like shoot the CT grate. And like, so if you shoot that out now, you're not going to have like any info mid round if someone, gets in the window or jungle and like sneaks through and is in CT. So some teams now, especially just because it's so hard to fight mid on CT side unless you're like fully committing to it as well. Because like, you're just going to get smoked out window, like smoked out con, cat. Like it's so hard to have like an impact that they'll just completely leave it open and then just play sites. So that way, if someone does even get into like window room or something, their only options really are, one, they have to like break the vent so everyone will hear that they're like trying to get into CT, which can still be like a really big distraction that's still like really useful, by the way, if you're a T, just to get in there, like break the room and just distract the entire other team. Like that's actually so powerful. Yeah. But just for the CT's perspective, it's just maybe like they're not having any success in mid, so they just want to play sites and just keep hold of like the info that they know they'll be able to keep.
Yeah, I think it's kind of idealistic to play Mirage the way that the map kind of offers it, that you would play a guy in connector, cat, window, break the vent. Like as a CT, you try to have the most agency in the round, and similarly then the Ts though have a lot of options too. But I think the FaZe approach that you mentioned, Launders, is really pragmatic, and I don't know who came up with that idea, but it is kind of becoming more meta, I think, in general, to do that. Like Mick said, that to not break it, to play kind of the 3, just straight up a 3-2 or like a 2-3 kind of thing. And I think for FaZe, that's something that does play into their wheelhouse pretty well, that you're simplifying the decision-making tree for a lot of these players right now, and especially on a newer team. just having less options as a CT is almost a benefit for them because in all honesty, with the firepower that they have, you don't necessarily want to have to force, like you don't want to have to force Cole to be like, do I need to help Kirby? Do I need to fight for mid control to try to support Brokey? Do I need to it's almost better for them to just give themselves binary options as opposed to trying to give like maybe in the future when they develop their Mirage, it would benefit them to break open the window to try to play that a lot more. But I think that the simplistic approach to not break it and play just standard 3B 2A is it's something that just in essence just makes their lives a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think it's something they'll try to abuse. I think if like the T's, like they're pretty confident, like they're just gonna try to abuse A mid round because you can get like pretty good setups mid round if you have 3 on A to like stop like a split. More so than like if you're like trying to daddy towards mid, it's really B that's gonna struggle a lot because if they actually do go there, it's like even
that
if
was
you
kind of why
like,
I brought it up.
Yeah,
it was like the no ladder room or anything like that. Like it
B's,
felt like
B's the big
problems.
weakness. But even before, I've seen FaZe like with when they still had Biomass on the team, they had a round like first gun round where they played 4 on A and then just Biomass alone on B. And so I think their sentiment there is just if they go B and like the round, if it's like if it's not like a close hit, if Gear being cold 0 don't clean it up, they'll probably just end up saving because it's kind of like the meta on CT side right now. So I imagine that's probably what they're playing towards.
That's a nice anecdote for BMS's experience on FaZe.
Oh yeah.
Seriously, we saw how
Come in
that
as a
worked
development
out.
player
Dude.
with absolutely no advice.
Yeah, he's not even like a B apps player, but they just left him there alone. Like if they come here, you got this, bro.
That's just Nico turning the cold shoulder towards him, just like BMS, we've given up on you. This is all you over there,
It's
and then
been
he just
3 or 4 days, man. What do you want from us?
I'm sure they was just a gamble. Like they knew if like they went B, they were probably gonna lose the round, but it's still funny for Biomass that he's just put there.
Yeah, I know. BMS is like to Nico. He's like, Nico, every time we played FPL together, you were helping me. What happened? It's just like.
I think the other thing is also it plays into sort of what the like your competition as well. Like some teams might not abuse that window jungle area as much as others. So, for example, a team like the old SK where they used to boost Fur into window all of the time.
Yeah,
like that's a team where you would really benefit from not popping that vent because you'll neutralize half of Fur's aggressive plays on that map basically.
Yeah, like if I'm
But,
playing like Fury on Mirage, like I might just avoid it because I know Art's just gonna be in the window at like 145 anyways. So
he'll find a way to kill you. Yeah, I did hear from Alish talking about playing jungle and how it's just like his least favorite space to be because someone could op you from palace or
so
jump
hard,
window or like no one really helps you from that spot. Like you just have
that
to get
spot
3
is
kills.
so
and-
difficult. Like
Yeah.
there's so like much kill potential around it, and that's why you see like so many stars playing it. But that spot is literally so hard to play, and actually, because if you're not
Yeah.
playing that spot well, you're just getting abused and you're just dying probably.
Connector in the first 45 seconds is one of the best spots to be as a CT, but after that, Jesus, man, the decisions you see players have to try to make as they're struggling from that position are just so rough. Like, do you tuck yourself in jungle? Do you want to make a play with the A player towards ramp or palace maybe? Or do you want to have to like do a late swing mid or something like that? And all of those feel like such risky options. None of them are actually good. I'll say that. So
It feels like
it's
whatever
rough.
option you choose, you're just gonna peek and get opt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the only issue is that like even if you don't want to do something, like you have to think about the perspective of conditioning. Like if you
Yeah.
let's say they knew that you were in an ultra passive setup like most of the time, then they can hold maids, not take mid, get someone window for free in 40 seconds, walk under passive one person, jump in window, leave them there, and then hit a site, and just hopefully that guy can have impact later on. Like there's a number of issues I think when you it's kind of like you just like a team knows that you're just not going to like if you don't play mids at all 70% of the rounds, that's a free spot to be in. I think the map should become T-sided in a vacuum, of course, but we'll see if that becomes a problem. It is FaZe's like most played map, and they are really playing it a lot recently too.
It does sort of play into the way they play it as well. Like with Cold and Ladder a lot, he can cover off that jungle position as well. So it sort of gives them the advantage of being able to rotate rotate their window player to help B or rotate to ticket and play 2 inside of A side as well. So it does give them a bit of options, but it's definitely something that can be abused if teams see them continuing to do it regardless of who they're playing against.
All right, moving on. All right, so this is a hypothetical. if you guys could build a starting five from only the four teams in the European IEM NY EU playoffs, rolls off the tongue, who would you guys pick? Let's start with Launders. Who would you pick?
From the IEM
EU New York playoffs. So basically, like anyone from Vitality, anyone from FaZe, OG, Fnatic. What would be your 5-man lineup?
Okay, I would clone Flusha. No, I would pick. I would probably go with the starting five. All right, ZywOo would be my opper. Nico would be my caller. I'll take Nico as my caller. I would have Alexi be on as a lurk, or maybe he would call, and he'd be a aggressive lurk. Open up rounds on CT side. So we got kind of an outside the map player. I'd put Crims on there, super solid. The Yuri of Europe. So I like to call him super solid anchor.
The Swedish Yuri.
That's a nice ring to it, honestly.
And then what are we missing? What are we missing here when we're extra player?
Just need like a hard hitting, maybe entry player. Or
I would, and then I'll put in Cold Zero when he knows his team's dying. Specifically that one though. That's the one I want. Yes.
All right, listen. I'm gonna go without ZywOo. I'm gonna try something different.
No way.
Because everyone's gonna go ZywOo. It's like the obvious one.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Everyone likes to win. It's a little weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't understand it, but whatever. So Alexi B, Rain, and Mountu are gonna be like my entry squad, my pack on T side. I'm gonna have Brolin as well for like one of my lurkers / anchors. And then I need another one to complete it.
I think you're going to get top 4 in the group with this lineup.
How is that bad? I got Alexi B and Rain. Like it's gonna be sick, dude. Monsu, that guy when he's on a rifle is sick too. So now it's not like ZywOo's a bad rifler. It's not what I'm saying, but I'm just trying something different here. And then Brolin. All right. And then I think my 5th, probably go with Flusha. I feel like that would make a lot of sense. Clone out the aggressive rifling squad with the big brain.
All right.
So
wait. What was your? Can you say your 5 all together?
Okay. So my 5 all together is Alexi B, Rain, Montu, Brolin, and Flusha.
God,
I hope this is a serious podcast. I don't know.
Dude, the Montu thing is just like, okay, you edgelord. Like, come on, how are you not picking ZywOo here?
ZywOo over
Montu over ZywOo,
bro. Everyone's gonna pick ZywOo. I want to pick someone different.
Dude, this hipster ass dude. Like, okay, all right, just gotta. Pick
I want another opera to be picked here. Okay, I want someone else to be represented.
All right.
Listen, there's a reason Henry G is the general manager of Cloud9 and Don picks. So obviously,
tried to get Guardian, he shut me down.
Yo, he's looking good in FPL, bro. He's looking.
Couldn't afford his buyout after Dignitas.
So obviously, I had ZywOo in my team, and then as sort of my entry / second man, and I had Golden and Nico. And I think Golden is actually a pretty underrated entry for some maps. Seen him really go off on Nuke specifically. Some key rounds stick out. But then I had RPK to pick up all of the bitch spots that nobody else wants to play because RPK seems to be talked up a lot. Obviously, we're ignoring any possible language issues in this team. I'm not sure how good RPK's English is. I assume great. I've never talked.
I feel like he doesn't talk much at all.
I talked to him very briefly at Epicenter last year, where I just said he was getting on the same plane as me, so I was like, "RPK, you're a beast," and he said, "Haha, thank you, man." So that's he speaks English perfectly.
Perfectly, right?
Yeah.
Big fan, Mauisnake.
Yeah.
Rounding out my team, I had a bit of a choice between Shox and Crims. Ended up going with Crims only because Shox is up and down, and Crims has been playing pretty well consistently over the last while. So take Crims as my little clutch god, last man.
Cool. Well-rounded team, guys. But you guys need to have a vision when you guys put these rosters together.
I don't have a vision, apparently. Yep.
Not with Montu over ZywOo. There is no vision there.
I guarantee my team put a best
His
of
team
3
would be
against any of your
affordable.
teams,
Okay.
It'd be
your team
affordable.
will absolutely win.
He's
I
thinking
guarantee
Moneyball. Yeah, how do we stretch our dollars here? Yeah. Okay. All right. So I've got a team, and we play at 1 speed only. It's foot pedal to the metal. So we got Golden. We've got I'm sorry. Okay, we've got Golden. We've got JW. We've got Rain. We've got Nico, and we got ZywOo. So basically, Nico gets to kind of be like the third man in and bait a little bit, as Golden and Rain just kind of run into bomb sites. ZywOo gets to do literally whatever he feels like every given round, but JW, second opper on T side, double op T side, JW just flying in with the op. Sometimes you can bait him, sometimes he'll find entries. At the same time, he's fearless, and that's what I need. I need a team of just like 4 fearless players, or really 3 fearless players, and then ZywOo to clean everything up. Because I mean, honestly, you put him in any kind of situation, if you make space for him, he can win it. So that's how I see every round playing out, where the strats don't even matter. Everyone's aggressive, and ZywOo just gets to have a playground after the battle.
And my team wins.
Battle.
Your team
I think-
wins.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all in agreement here that Mix has the worst roster, right? Like
That's my team would win.
That's a given, right?
Yes. It's online CS.
It's online CS.
My team is gonna have the greatest T side. All right, it has a clear vision for its T side. We're gonna get at least like 11 rounds on every T side, because we're gonna have the sickest riflers, the sickest plays. And then our CT sides, we're gonna get in your face the entire game, and you're just not gonna have a chance.
You pick Crims though, right?
No, I pick Flusha.
Oh, Flusha. Oh, okay, all right.
Flusha's my clutch master. So like after everyone else like gets all the kills, Flusha comes in for like the 1v1.
Roland doesn't always just run in. I rarely see him just sprint into situations.
He's my other lurker. It's fun.
Oh, the triple lurk. All right, gotcha. Okay.
No, I got my
pack.
I got my pack, and then I got my lurkers, dude. Come on.
You got the boof pack.
My team is built
the bro
perfectly.
pack. All right. Let's hop across the pond to IEM North America briefly here.
I'm just glad no one has faith in Mixed team. That's all.
It's
Even
Mix.
though it's Mix.
yeah, exactly.
Gosh, I don't believe in statistics, Mix.
all right. Let's move over to NA here. This tournament is still, of course, in progress, but we're halfway through the group stage. Actually, we're a little bit over halfway through this group stage. Does anything jump out to you guys with the results here?
The only thing that surprised me a bit was that New England Oilers have played pretty well with Booby as a stand-in for B-Wolves.
Mhm.
But aside from that, I would say the results have been more or less as expected. Like Furia playing pretty well, playing pretty well.
Mostly, I've just still been kind of disappointed in how Liquid's playing overall, with like the loss to 100D and like the kind of close game against Chaos playing with a stand-in. It just feels like they're still not really there. They're still not really playing as well as they could be. Their roster still isn't fully like meshing at the moment. There's still like things they're trying to figure out. So that's the biggest takeaway for me so far, is that Liquid is still trying to figure things out.
It puts a horrible taste in my mouth to see Liquid playing like this, because Triumph died for this, and like jokes aside, like that was actually really solid, promising up and coming roster, who ultimately would eventually have their best player get poached. That's just how it goes, unfortunately. But the fact that he goes on to Liquid, and Liquid are at like a similar or worse level with such a huge firepower upgrade just kind of blows my mind. It's like a real big shame. And it's not even like Grim is like a different player from when he was before. His stats, they've been a bit up and down, but he's proven that he can play well in big matches. So it's a huge question mark for me as to like what is now the win condition for Liquid, or like what is actually missing from them. I've boiled it down to like it has to be some sort of IGL problem. Like I don't know what you guys think, but I personally don't think it can do with Stewie having a 0.7 every game, as much as how can that matter that much when you have 4 players as good as Elige, Nafly, Twist, and Grim. Like I just don't see that as a proper alibi. And so I wonder if it is the calling, and if it is the calling, what's the solution? And yeah, because that's a very expensive team that's have varying middling performances.
Yeah, to me, it just seems like Liquid are lacking like a big idea in a number of rounds that they have. Like some rounds you can tell they have like a very clear idea of what they want to do or how they want to end it, or even mid round they'll have a solution. but at times it just seems like they're very lost as to how they want to adapt into a mid-round. In terms of like the Nitro roster would often sort of click into those ideas a little bit faster, especially on land, which is obviously a different environment. But you could see that they would have a very decisive plan of action at times, and they would execute on that. And that's sort of what was helping them plow through some of their issues, and as well as like why they were always fragging out in terms of their Grand Slam run. But right now it seems like they're not decisive enough, and I agree with Launders. I think it comes down to an in-game leader issue in that sense, where there isn't someone to sort of give them an overarching plot into a round, even if they're not really aware of what they're working towards. I honestly think with Liquid we're approaching the time where we start asking how many more tournaments do we give them until we put them in like a category of having too many issues for a team of their caliber. I think we're already there almost.
Yeah, maybe they'll get it together a little bit in playoffs, but I have to admit, just copy a couple of those sentiments that it does seem like, I think I said maybe on the Flashpoint Q&A, the thing with Liquid is just like, you don't always love the point of contact at the beginning of rounds for this team, because especially given the fact that they don't have an opper who's like really solid. Like, I think like Stewie and Naf are doing serviceable jobs at times. Like, I actually thought Stewie looked really good back at kind of the summer DreamHack, but lately he hasn't looked as good, and it's kind of just I'm not sure if it's I'd like to know kind of the how it's working for that team. Just how do they decide on any given round, is Naf gonna op or is Stewie gonna op? Because sometimes I feel like it's almost like they just are playing off a feeling as opposed to playing off of some kind of rhyme or reason. At least that's how it strikes me when I watch these matches. So I'd love to know what they think about that. And like Elige, I've noticed, is very frequently at the top of the percentages for entry attempt rates. So, and like Elige as a player, I don't necessarily always want to be taking first contact for this team when he has to battle up against the opposing team's opera a lot of the time. I don't want to see him have to go headfirst into that unless Liquid just becomes super structured all of a sudden and just flashes every opera off of every like common angle. But a couple times he will get caught by, you know, just an aggressive op stance, and that's not what you want from a player who pretty much, I don't know about you guys, but I think he's NA's best player. I don't want him to have to just man fight into rounds sometimes. I want there to be a little bit more structure around him to start things off, or at least just it to not be in the context of a default, perhaps. Just like if it were a set play and he's entry, okay, sure, that's just because the play is good, or they trust the exec. But if it's in a default, I would rather somebody else take contact. And someone who has been kind of slipping for me has been Twist. Actually, his form this year has been a little bit uninspired from my perspective, where I look at his recent years, and in 2019 when he was top 10 player in the world, he had a 1.14 rating. In 2018 he had a 1.15. 2017 in fact he had a 1.19. So actually he's getting worse every year, but you have to assume that it's the level of competition that he's playing against. But this year it's a 1.08, and it's really like the worst level in terms of stats that he's had against top 5 or top 10 opponents, where it's just like a 1.02 versus top 5 opponents, a 1.05 versus top 10 opponents, whereas last year he looked really good against good teams. Like he didn't fall off or anything.
Yeah.
It feels like they're... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say, it feels like just combined with like the fact that Stu isn't like, this is kind of like he's still new to calling in terms of like calling for a team like this, and, you know, taking over as the IGL, and, you know, not having like a set opper at the moment, and, you know, the roles all just kind of being fucky in times, just because you have like 5 sick riflers, and like it can make everything kind of confusing. It seems like in terms of the team at the moment. So like in terms of their spots and their roles, it just seems like they don't have any sense of comfortability yet. They can't seem to get into a groove, because it's hard to get into a groove when there's so many things that aren't set, and so many things that aren't, you know, so many things that you aren't used to, like who's opping, who's calling. You know, Grim is like a fairly new player coming in and playing with all these people. So it just seems like, considering like all these factors, it's gonna be so hard to like find a groove for yourself.
I think, I feel like Grim could probably use a lot of direction. I don't know who on the team is going to help him with that, but a little bit of leadership from that perspective. It feels like Grim seems like a nice guy, and Maui, you know him. I don't know how perceptive he is to kind of help from the outside and whatever, but it maybe, at this level, getting introduced to a lot of like higher level competition, it would be good for someone to kind of take charge and instruct them on how to play the game, I guess, at in this system, and what to expect or whatever. But I also feel like that with Twist, like you're saying, like Twist feels like a dog to me, like a dog fighting dog. Like he needs DMX to send him out into a dog fight, but he needs the guy to send him out into the dog fight. Otherwise, it doesn't feel like he's going to have spirited performances. And I know he did have a lot of respect for Nitro and I really like playing with him. So, don't know if some of the motivation is slipping for him, but that could be an issue as well.
And at the moment, there's never really going to be many opportunities for someone to send him in like that. When you have like Elysian, Grim, and Stu, like most likely one of them is just going to be doing it, so Twist isn't really even being asked to do it. He's really had to take like more of a step back, especially in this team with like the riflers. I think it contributes to that as well. He is the guy that's like playing a lot of some of the bitch spots, especially on like the T sides. And, he's playing like a lot of the lurk spots, and also
actually, yeah.
It comes with that, playing like those lurk and anchor spots, especially when you have teammates around you like Elige, Grim, Stu, guys that are like trying to make plays and are gonna make plays. It doesn't leave as much room for you as like you might have playing those spots in other teams.
Yeah, I do want to get your thoughts, Maui, on Grim, but I also would like to point out, like, I know for a fact that Twist is not assertive when it comes to like, I want this position, and he is good enough to pick some spots. Obviously, like at time he is, during the Grand Slam run, he can be the best player on the team in a lot of their important matches, but I know he's not assertive enough, and I know like someone like Nitro would just give him a spot or something like that. But the weird thing is that when we were listening to, like at Blast, we had player comms, so we could like switch between either team for the entire matches. There was never a point at which Nitro was actually calling, even at the beginning of this year. And that made me wonder, like, how much was Nitro even calling during the Grand Slam run? Like, how much has actually changed from a IGL perspective? Like, it was mostly Stewie and Elige doing a lot of the talking. So that's something I don't have a lot of insight into, but something I wonder about.
Yeah, to touch on Grim's personality, he is definitely a more quiet type. He'll let the action come to him. And I talked to him actually when he was kind of starting out on Liquid, and he said that Stewie was doing a good job kind of holding his hand through some of the plays. Like, I know he plays Beyond Inferno with Stewie. So that spot is, you're definitely going to listen to what Stewie has to say there. But I'm not sure if that's like furthering his conception regarding like theory or anything like that, or it's just like, hey, they have banana, let's do this, or okay, let's just set up like this. And I don't know if like the theory behind it is really getting through to him, and like that because once you understand the theory and the concepts, unless you have just god tier feel all the time and it's just like everything is intuitive to you, or you're just super just like really good at working on the fly, it's harder for you to always conceptualize like, why should I do this? When should I do this? And sometimes I notice that, I mean, I'm sure Grim has developed since then, but a lot of times he'll just opt to like, I'll just play this. When things get a little hairy, I'm just going to play the spot that I'm most comfortable with. And if the action comes to me, I will multi-frag because I am an aim beast, and like from his perspective, but like,
in the moment, it's super easy to fall back into that, like for any player.
Yeah.
It's so hard to like consistently like have that vision of like conditioning and like what they're gonna expect and like maybe what's like the best spot. Like it's super easy to fall back into like, okay, I'm just gonna play this spot that I'm comfortable with, and I'm gonna shoot through people in the head if they come here. And that's my play.
I almost kind of wish that this Liquid team, when they made the switch to pick up Grim, I almost wish that Adren were their coach for like 3 more weeks, show all the strats, show him all the defaults, and then bring in Moses to be the fire behind the team, where everything's in set and in motion already. Because I feel like Moses is kind of learning also right now with the team, because he's been out of like he's been kind of out of the pro scene as a player for a while now, so kind of has to get caught up on the meta, get caught up on the strats. Like, let me learn what you guys are doing. And he said, and he's been publicly saying that just like, well, like a lot of the tactics just kind of come from them for right now at least. And so if Adren were there and just be like, Grim, here's our strat book, let's try running a server. Come with me in a server. We'll do this in our free time. Get comfortable with this. Everything like that. Here are the plays we like to run when this happens. Here's the response to this. I think the growing pains for this Liquid team would have been really alleviated.
Yeah, they do. It's kind of combination.
Something that was telling for me is that when I interviewed Grim for my feature about him, the full quote didn't make it into the article, but I asked him about Stewie in-game leading, and this is about a month and 2 weeks into him being on Liquid, and he said that Stewie's still fairly new to IGLing and being the team captain, but I couldn't have asked for a better leader. He's made sure I can be the most comfortable I can be in the team being the new guy, and he helps me perform the best of my ability, which to me it seems like Stewie is definitely helping him fit in, but the fact that Grim is saying something like Stewie is still fairly new to IGLing is a little bit telling, in the sense that I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but to me it sounds like Grim is basically saying that there's elements of IGLing that Stewie is just not incorporating into the Liquid game plan. Whether that's because he's not used to adding it in or not used to thinking like that far into the game plan into matches. But Stewie to me is like a really intelligent player, and I think he has the ability to develop into that. But it's just a matter of how long it'll take him to reach that point, because now without Adren behind him and Moses there, to me it seems like Moses and Moses and Stewie have very similar like hype beast sort of mentality behind the team. So I'm curious to see where that sort of tactical element and the sort of layers will get added onto for Stewie's IGLing in that sense.
Yeah, that's another element I didn't really think of, is like the fact that also like a new coach, in addition to like everything, is like another variable that makes things not so set. And like, so it's like you have like so many different variables, and you have like this roster that has like so many different ways to play with it in terms of like roles and stuff. But that can be like a blessing, that can also be like a curse, especially if like a new team, because it's really hard to figure out and dial down what's good for you. So everyone's like, Stewie's trying to like learn the IGL, and he's like also trying to main op at times. You know, Moses was like coming into the team as a coach. You know, it's the first time he's coached, you know, like a big team like this. So it's a lot to really nail down for Liquid.
Yeah, I like what Maui said. Like, I mean, I think it makes sense that it just like Moses is obviously smart enough to learn the game on a very specific meta level, but you just, unless you play, you're just gonna not know stuff. It's so hard to see from the outside. When you're in the server and he watches them practice, I'm sure he'll learn very quickly, but it'll take some time for that. And Adren could have just simply been like, here are specific tactics, here's your role in those tactics, and say it in a way that the players might not even be able to understand themselves, because he's looking at it from the outside.
I almost feel like Adren also would know, like, better than anybody, okay, here's Grim's strengths, here were Nitro's strengths, who should we plug in to fill for where Nitro was on this strat, and whose spot should Grim take given his skill set. Like, a lot of it could have been easier, but let's move on from Liquid. We still got playoffs.
I think Adren did help that a little bit, because I remember when Grim first joined the team, Adren was talking on stream about Grim plugging into Liquid, and he was mentioning how Grim got most of his previous roles on Triumph, minus I think 2 of them that overlapped with Elish. I think that was on T side, but he did basically plug him into some of the similar roles that he was playing. So I think Adren did help with that transfer a little bit, but it was for a very short period, like maybe a week or 2.
Yeah. All right. Well, we still got playoffs to go for New York. We'll get into the predictions a little bit later for everything. Let's go to the news side of things. JKS. 100 Thieves, they just beat Liquid, but it looks like JKS will be departing them here. Rumored to go to Complexity for filling in for Obo, of course, or most recently NATO Sapphics, I suppose. Does this role swap feel right to you guys? Does this feel like, JKS for Obo, just 1-to-1?
Feels perfect, honestly. Like, one, JKS is also not someone that's like super vocal in terms of like, I have to play here and I have to play here. He's also someone that's generally, like, in terms of their career, seems to have been a little bit less laid back, and so kind of the roles and stuff that he likes to play in general are already like most of Obo's spots and stuff. And even besides that, like, if JKS had to move spots, he was fine. He was fine to do it on 100 Thieves. So it just feels like a perfect, like a really fucking set replacement. Like, JKS is so good at like conditioning and like doing his own little thing and like lurking and anchoring at other sides of the map. So it's going to be like a whole other tool for BlameF to use, and like I can only see this like positively affecting Cole.
Which is nuts because Obo was putting up big
because
stats
Obo was
for
really
Cole,
good.
Yeah, but I think I've heard BlameF say Obo's nades were terrible, and he had to learn like every nade set Obo had in case he'd forget during the match. And like JKS on the other hand has a lineup for every single HE he uses. You know, like he's super reliable, I think, on CT side to make sure like his nades all end in the right place. Doesn't seem like he ever needs an adult, you know, watching him. And so I think their CT sides don't move or improve. And somehow I think the team will actually also get better.
Yeah, because also the nice thing is about having Rush as well is that like any spots that like maybe JKS doesn't want to play that Obo had, or like, you know, spots that he doesn't want to play that Obo had, like Rush is just gonna Rush probably won't care. Rush will probably just be like, yeah, sure, I'll play that.
You just do it.
Yeah, you can do that. I'll play here. I don't care.
Yeah, I think you would probably be hard pressed to find a better replacement for Obo than JKS at the moment. In terms of like the free agents and the players who may be looking to change teams, I think JKS is probably the best fit you could have found for Obo in terms of just his roles, but also just the talent that he has.
I think he'll be fine, but like one thing to consider is that he has been playing with like the same core for like 5 years. JKS has, so like he is going into like a completely new environment that he hasn't had to experience yet. So that is something that could definitely throw him off at the start, or, you know, there could be some other things that could play into it. So it's not like 100% it's going to work out like better, but I do think it's very likely that it will.
Yeah, he's going to have to start learning spot names that aren't just Diggity. So that's going to be a big growing pain for them. I totally agree though. I think that this is excellent. I feel like when you watch Obo versus JKS play, just if you pull up their POVs and watch them side by side, a lot of the decision making is super similar. I think JKS sometimes can be like, it's almost just like a better or more polished version of Obo. It's like he'll know the exact spot he needs to stand in, and he has been
around for like 5 more years, so that wouldn't make sense.
Exactly. Like it's not a dig at Obo or anything like that. It's just that JKS is super good. He's super polished. I mean, top 20 player last year on HLTV. Like he's really just been the star for that 100 Thieves and Renegades lineup. Like how the hell did they get this pickup? Like this is actually so crazy, because I was thinking like, man, looking at the free agents that are on the market here right now, like I don't really know. I don't love too many players that are out there. Like, are 100 Thieves just gonna have to pick up like Dexter? Like that role doesn't really fit. Like sorry. Like, are Complexity gonna pick up someone like that? Or like, I didn't really know where they were gonna go with it. And then they just get JKS, and it's just such a godsend. Like, this is crazy. Like, this just fell into their lap in some way that whatever they're doing there on the GM side of things for Complexity is just like they're working magic. So I love this pickup for them.
Single-handedly destroyed the Australian scene in one fell swoop.
I don't like JKS bailed them out.
Fun.
Yeah, JKS bailed them out of a lot of situations at times. So
I think right now the best Australian player is Jacob, right?
Well, I see what you did there.
JKS is the best, but Dexter strikes fear into my heart just from playing Renegades in the past. I just think about Dexter and overpass connector, and I just get scared. He's just a god down there.
I think Dexter, I think of that like 30 kill train game that he had on like 1/2 or something. It was ridiculous. I don't remember who it was against. I just remember it was a train game where Dexter absolutely demolished them.
Yeah. On C9, we had nightmares about overpass connector for months just because of Dexter.
Really?
We were just constantly worried about people playing there.
Yeah, he's really good, but it's okay. You know what? Let's that just leads right into 100 Thieves though. They're leaving CSGO. It's the second time the org has left. The first time, of course, being when they had that super brief roster with KNG and Henny, and then moving into what
legendary.
I think was, the legendary roster, whose stickers I bought like 20 of those stickers as soon as I found out that the team was pulling out, and they all just like 5x in value immediately. It was a good use of my funds, and
they didn't
allow me to buy a lot of games.
Right?
No, I know.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, I literally just like was able to buy like a bunch of video games because I just was able to sell those on the market right after. That was excellent. But they've left again. where will their pieces go? Azure, Jacom, Gratisfaction, Liaz. It looks like there's already been some interest in Jacom across quite a few teams, and I mean, it's hard not to see why, because he's just like he can fit into a lot of teams very well. Like, he's always kind of that second solid rifle for a team. He's not going to be your star player, but if you rely on him to be your second guy, you can actually be a top 15 team in the world pretty genuinely.
Yeah, I think JKS and Jacom were both rumored to, or at least they were organizations that were interested in picking up players, like either or both of them. So I'm not surprised to see JKS taken off for. As for the rest of them, I don't really know where they could end up at this point. Obviously, Genji has 2 open slots at the moment.
Azure, Genji.
I could see Azure, and maybe Jacob slotting into a team like that and sort of helping to revitalize them. Also, Cloud9 are looking for a replacement for Floppy, so someone like Liaz could also be a good fit there. But
it's a bit riskier, right? Like that's like less of a lateral move at this point, which is a bit risky for them because they might not individually have a ton of stock. There is an argument though for Liaz that he never got to play to his full potential. Coming into the team, he was supposed to be doing a lot better, but then had to give up space.
Yeah, he conflicted with JKS a lot. Like,
so there's a chance Liaz. So. Honestly, he's one of the smartest players in the clutch. Like, I feel like I really like the way he plays 1v1s, and I can see so much potential there. I can see a potential where he's like automatic TSM to Cloud9, like suddenly finds his form on like a team with more space in it. But if I hate to say this, but if I'm Gen G, I'm like, I grab Dexter and Oboe. Like those would be my 2 to fill in, because you get the caller with Dexter, but you got a better fragging IGL than even Azure. Like Dexter is actually so much. I feel like the potential is ridiculous. Like the team who grabbed him, they can actually just build around him, especially when they're correct connector on Mirage, and then or correct connector on the Overpass. And then Oboe has just learned so much and is just so damn good at the moment.
And it worked too, because they still have Kusta, who's always like down to play whatever spot and just play whatever for the team. So that would definitely fill out the roster nicely. I really like Azure. Definitely, I think he's a bit underrated in terms of as an IGL. Like, I've always been super impressed with how Under Thieves / Renegades has played. So I'd really like to see him go somewhere else as an IGL and try that again. And Grat, I still think Grat could be good somewhere. I'd like to see him play under like a different IGL probably, in like a different type of system. I don't know what exactly, but I do think he's definitely a bit inconsistent, a bit up and down. But I think there probably is like a certain type of fit for him that would make a lot of sense in terms of, I don't know what team exactly it would be. But
like, I think you're not just being nice, right? Like I see it the same way as you, where like he is clearly a really good player.
Like he has a lot of impact at times. Like there are times where he's literally like the entire reason they're like winning games, because, and it's not like he's always like bad or anything. Like he's just a bit up and down. But when he is on, like he has so much impact, and he is like constant, like really aggressive, and like he's a big playmaker. So there's definitely like opportunity there for Gratisfaction.
Gratisfaction. All right, let's see. I like that. I mean, actually, I want to say I like Launder's hypothetical there. The Dexter Oboe pickup would make Genji. I think they would just like actually go up like 5 spots in the world rankings instantly. Actually, I think that's just literally a better team, because you're upgrading the firepower from Daps to Dexter, and Oboe is. Like, I think there was a little bit of back and forth in that conversation when they were both kind of jumping onto the pro scene. Who's better? It seemed like Som maybe has like a higher peak, but right now Oboe is the more solid piece. But Oboe just kind of incrementally got better and better and better. And he seems very easy to work with. Like maybe like you guys have said that maybe his nade lineups aren't perfect, and he needs a little bit more of that kind of nade database to run through his brain a little bit for a while. But I think it was at the end of Som's Counter-Strike career, since he is now a Valorant player. I think it was actually pretty much indisputable that Oboe took the mantle for best up and coming, like really young NA star. Like Grim, I mean Grim would be there, but he's just a few years older.
Early 2019, it was like kind of like the three people that were coming up like all around the same time were like Ten, Slom, and Obo, and we kind of seen how that's gone now.
That was it, and they all had big stream personality or streams, which is why I think everyone compared them to each other.
Yeah.
Even though they do not play the same at all. But
And now Obo's the only one left, and Obo definitely, I think, kind of speaking back to like that JKS thing, he definitely like has the potential to like reach a JKS level or even like higher. In terms of Obo, so whatever team is getting him is like gonna be so happy with whoever gets him. But
All right, so Mouse have made their statement on Rejin that they are parting ways with him officially. They aren't going to. I kind of want the quote actually. Where is it? Pronogo, can you scroll down just a little bit here? What I think they gave a specific statement about how they didn't want to set a precedent or anything about how he's. Okay, they wanted to stand for competitive integrity, and firm stand for competitive integrity that left them with no other option. And I really respect that from them. But Rejin was the coach when Maus went on that 3-tournament win streak at the end of 2019, and even came in second place at Epicenter to close out the year. So they were looking really hot, and you can definitely assume that he was a big. Really responsible for why they were peaking. Like they had to make that shift where it's like they basically were like coming down to their last legs in terms of what can we do with this 5-man lineup, and then they did that big shift where it was like instead of Frozen being on the entry, they moved Frozen to be kind of like that secondary, like kind of like pressure lurk role, so he has a little bit more freedom. Yeah, he totally ascended when that happened. It was actually like really impressive the way they just switched that around, and then instantly they became a championship contender. So it's a shame there, but what are your guys' opinions? Let's start first with like kind of the moral side of this, actually, which is something we don't always talk about. Just like, how do we feel about Maus's statement? Like, are you guys respecting this, or do you guys think they should just be all about winning and they should go maybe a more heroic route where they just keep him along as like a quote analyst?
I think it's sort of a twofold scenario where I think morally they made the right choice just based on the fact that Rejin did abuse the bug a number of times. Also, his ban length is severely long versus a lot of other coaches, so it doesn't really make sense to keep him around. Also, Kerrigan was talking on the HLTV Confirmed podcast about the specific. This is before the organization actually dropped him, but it was after they had suspended him, and he was basically talking about how the decision to part ways with him from the organization standpoint was all on the organization. Like it wasn't something that the team was really, it wasn't a decision the team was part of, because it was basically up to the organization as to how it would reflect on their sponsors. And I feel like that's something that the other teams haven't really considered. Like you see Heroic now getting blowback from a lot of Danish fans for keeping Hunden on. And right now the conversation should sort of be about how Astralis and Heroic are like the 1 and 2 best Danish teams in that sort of rivalry, but instead the Danish fans are talking about how Heroic had Hunden and they still kept him, and that's where the conversation is for them right now. So to me, I think morally it's definitely the right choice for Maus. I think I respect the fact that they sort of stick to the actual competitive integrity side of it rather than decide to keep him on just based on the fact that he's not allowed in game.
One quick question for you: where are you seeing what the Danish fans are saying? Are you on dust2.dk, just like clicking that translate button? How are you?
So that's something that Kerrigan actually mentioned in the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Specifically, right. Yeah. I would assume it would be on dust2.dk and just general Danish media, but that's something that he mentioned specifically about the Danish fans sort of talking about that.
The closer you look at Rejin's like case, the more nefarious it looks. And unfortunately, like even when you see that it was on Tricked, but then Prosta, him using it against Prosta to the point that they got like eliminated in back-to-back weeks, and then they disbanded right after. Like all of those residual effects that come from his him using the coaching bug makes it look way worse. But the same thing could be said for all of these coaches. I mean, honestly, all you have to do is go look at that like unlisted YouTube playlist of like all of the coaches using their cameras to see that it is as plain as day, like cheating and was wrong. And they potentially changed the course of the players that they were playing against in their careers and had impact on like the prize money they win or like, you know, the arguments that happened that day because they lost. All of these different things. It's hard to measure, but they definitely did cheat. And like, I kind of take threat stance on it, like in some of the other coaches when they're like, you know, if they don't even agree that, you know, oops, it just fell into my lap and it just happened in, you know, one game, whatever we used it, they would argue that is a big deal, and it's as a big a deal as soon as you use that camera and as soon as you know, keep it for multiple rounds. Then I kind of hold that position as well, where like morally it's just hard to argue for them. They have to be punished at some level. And for the orgs themselves, like, it's just, I think Kerrigan said, he said that he was going to take on all the responsibilities of Rejin in that in-between period where they find a new coach, which is very noble of him, because they want to make, they don't want a coach to be setting example for the team as somebody who has himself tainted competitive integrity on the roster. So it's hard I feel like it's really hard to argue against.
Yeah, from my POV, I'm glad they're like taking the stance of actually parting ways with him after it, because, you know, obviously a lot of the orgs that have just kind of kept on their coaches, like analysts and stuff, has, you know, even made me a bit paranoid about what Valve thinks about it in terms of that stuff. So I haven't really liked the precedent set by that. So I definitely have a lot of respect for Mouse and how they've handled it.
I didn't even think about that, like from Josh's perspective, like him at like working as an analyst, to think that Valve might turn their back on all analyst or coaching positions because teams have not dealt with it properly. I think that's really fair.
Yeah, I think as this conversation moves forward regarding what happened, I think people are recognizing more and more so that this is indeed like legit 100% cheating. Like, this is as if a player used a wall hack, and if a player used a wall hack, we're not going to be like, okay, he turned it on for one round, it's okay, guys, like, let's just give him a little slap on the wrist. Like, no, like that changed the outcome of the game, and that like people are realizing, like, Pro 100 disbanding because they're eliminated by teams abusing this bug. Like,
yeah,
it changed their lives.
It's like the context is different between like what we normally think of as cheating, but like it is still cheating. Like, it is, you did still cheat, so, you know.
Yeah, and Pro 100 as a team was always a team that I was kind of like low key rooting for, where it was like, where I think Zeus is one of the the founders of it. So it was kind of like, okay, this is Zeus's little bit of involvement with Counter-Strike even after he has departed as a player. And I was kind of always like, man, it'd be really cool if he gets into some good administrative role or manager role, so that we can still just have him as a person in the scene. Because it's always fun, like, you know, in a couple of years down the line, if Zeus can get on a pod and it's like Pro 100 is a top 15 team or something like that, and what he has to say about it. But now that storyline is just lost. Like, that's just not going to happen anymore. We're not going to hear about Pro 100 being the top 3 CIS team or anything like that. They're gone. So that's a big shame. It's a big hit in terms of how it's affected the futures. And I have to agree with everybody else that I think that it's admirable of Mouse not thinking about the short-term gains that they may be able to find if Rejin stays on as an analyst, but just expelling him from the org entirely just seems to be the it's on good moral footing that they do.
It's like, as a person, you want to feel bad for him because it's just like career and like it happened all the time. But yeah, ultimately, like, you know, what he did, you can't make up for it. Like what he did to the other teams, there's no like coming back from that, unfortunately. Yeah.
As far as the long-term effects of losing Rejin for Mouse is concerned, I think it'll be a little while until we see the actual impact that losing him has. Because again, Kerrigan mentioned how during matches, coaches for at least Rejin, but it seems like coaches for Kerrigan teams in general seem to contribute, like he said, 5 to 10% of the time they'll chip in with some sort of adaptation or strat, but a lot of the time during the matches, it's all Kerrigan. And for him, his coaches are generally more for preparing or guiding the team outside of the game. And to see the long-term effects of that, I think it'll take a little bit to actually see whether Mouse drop off or the direct effect it has on their roster.
All right, let's move forward here. Floppy officially announced. We talked about him last time. Mix had some very kind words to say about him. I think we all did. We really do respect Floppy as a player. Launders, I'd like to get your thoughts on what you think about this pickup is, because we've more or less said that last week. But what have you got to say? How do you perceive Floppy?
Ever since he won me for it Astralis on train, like I've never not been a fan. I've been that one before just blew me away. Like everything about it. I actually did a video on Floppy on that specific match at Katowice, and like I was so inspired that I casted the round in my demo review because it was just such a good clutch. I played it twice actually at the end of the demo review. That to me, that one singular round showed me that he had everything of what it takes to become a solid player versus any team. Like to me, it only takes one round. You see, there's perfect execution. They're thinking about all of the right things. They're calculating things quickly, and they have good spray control. And it's just like he just was able to nail it in all those fronts. And everything that Josh said about him, like the fact that he's willing to play bad spots, so that he just has a very kind of like chill way of approaching hard things to do on a team. It just seems like he's a really good dude, and he puts up the numbers. I just have nothing but good things to say about Floppy.
Yeah, my reaction to that 1v4 in the green room, I remember just absolutely freaking out when he 1v4 Astralis.
Yeah. So, in a similar vein then, Launders, are you a fan of Zelsis because you got that pistol clutch at the major then? Is that how you just become fans of players, just singular clutch moments?
Was it first round? His first round ever?
Yeah, first round of a major, like ace pistol on Mirage, I think. Yeah.
I'm not gonna get into that. Yeah.
all right.
I declined to answer based on my 50 minutes.
I was just seeing the logic behind the becoming a fan. No, of course.
No, listen, pistol rounds are like a completely different game. First of all, okay, so it's not even the same game.
Yeah.
He didn't use a utility.
Pistol rounds are not Counter-Strike. They are a sub-product of Counter-Strike.
They're a mini game. Yeah, they're a
mini game. They're the starting mini game.
It's to loosen everybody up, to get the comms rolling, just like get everybody talking. Like it's not the same. It's just like sometimes you talk a little bit less, more. I mean, it doesn't matter, honestly. If any individual pops off on a pistol, it's great for a highlight reel, but in the grand scheme of things, like we know it's a little bit different than
once I played against the iBuyPower in an online qualifier with like a team that we ran into them once, and then we played actually 1 week. We got like 12 rounds against them. It was like huge, like a best day of our lives, and this best of one. And then the next week we played them on Inferno, and they like wanted revenge, obviously. So we won both pistol rounds and got 16-2'd. Just to show you how unimportant or insignificant pistol rounds will be in terms of determining how good you are.
Yeah. All right. Let's move into the predictions here. Okay, so we've got IEM North America still running right now. Looks like the playoffs are more or less set. The seeding is not set, but it looks like in terms of who's going to be moving on, that is set except for one thing. Team 1 versus Chaos actually is that needs to be played still. The winner of that, to the best of my knowledge, will move forward because unless
tiebreakers,
yeah, I think that's the tiebreaker here. If it's round differential, Chaos already has it locked. But I would hope that IEM NA is using just like who wins to be the tiebreaker.
So for most ESL and IEM events, it'll go by head to head, and then it'll go by maps 1. So it'll do total. I think it'll actually do series 1 and then maps 1. So it'll be based on like head to head, and if that doesn't break it, then it is pretty reasonable as a tiebreaker. As far as round robin goes,
the worst is when it's just like a team lost to another team, but then their round differential's better or something, and it's like, what? Like, are you? Like, that
to be honest,
yeah,
these are like NA predictions, so I don't think these take too long. It's like probably here at EG in the final at the moment. Maybe Liquid will start to play better, and it's kind of the
I think that's mostly it. I think New England Whalers are going to make... You don't think they're going to make the Dark Horse run to the finals? Anybody? Any takers?
I'm actually been impressed with how they played so far. Shout out to them. I think they played really well, especially for having a stand-in. I think if they had beat Wills, I might actually be looking for them to like try to take a map off of someone or something, but unfortunately for them, it's for having a stand-in, but yeah. And also I will say with 100 Thieves as well, like the fact that like the news has already come out with that and there's like no pressure for them for this event definitely means they could make like a winning run or something. That is like such like a strong thing to have.
That weirdly is.
Europe run contrasted with the 100 Thieves North America run.
Yeah, that it's just like I love how when a team is disbanding and they know they're disbanding, you don't know if that means they're gonna win a tournament or they're gonna come in last. Like it's just like
Yeah.
you actually it should mean like you'd think players would not try as hard, but I think
It depends why it disbanded. It's like they all hate each other and they just can't wait to like stop playing with each other. It's like they'll probably just go last. But if it's just like, it's like time's probably up. We should probably like, we all gotta go our separate ways now. But this tournament will still be fun, so we'll all have fun. And like when you have like that kind of environment, it's pretty easy to play well.
I think also sometimes the players that are kind of on the losing end of whatever is happening and moving forward kind of see it as like a contract year for like an NBA player where they're like, they know that, okay, I'm going to get paid next year. My contract's up. So let me just play my goddamn heart out. Right. So I think that like maybe we'll see beast mode Liaz moving into the playoffs. Right. Like I think that, I mean, that's just what I hope.
Yeah.
I can pray for that. Yeah. So also this is maybe an event that not all of us have been following, but I just wanted to hear what you guys had to say. Anyways, so 2 teams will be moving on forward from the Flashpoint close qualifier. And the reason I bring this up is 1, because I will be at Flashpoint, and 2, I want to this is a big ass tournament. So this isn't like some insignificant qualification at all. Like this is really pretty substantial for the funding of any of these teams moving forward. And right now, I don't know if you guys have the brackets up, but Godsend are already in the upper bracket finals for this. And so I think they only have to win 2 more BO3s to make it through. But I don't know if you guys have the rest of it up. It's basically, who do you guys think are going to qualify for Flashpoint Season 2?
I'm a giant MSL fanboy, so I'll go with North, first of all.
They are in the other group.
Yep, he is probably the greatest IGL to ever grace Counter-Strike, so I think they should get through pretty easily. Godsend, and then Godsend.
Do you believe? Wait, do you believe that? Do you believe that MSL is really the best IGL to ever grace Counter-Strike?
Of course.
The Mantu pick and now the MSL.
Okay, all right. I mean, I respect it.
Got a problem with it? Is there something wrong here, or?
Maybe you're right. You've worked with him, so.
I go on HLTV on sport mode. I didn't come on this podcast to listen to me.
He can be a good IGL, but he won't be able to talk much with Shiro's op down his throat in that match.
Yeah.
Whoa. I 1-deeked Shiro pregame scrim one time.
Okay.
I'm sure he was sitting at the computer.
Across the map on train. It was insane. It was actually an insane one.
And then you typed him in all chat to let him know.
Said NT. Type NT to him.
Yeah, I probably did.
Question mark actually is the best there.
Mark.
Yeah. What do you think you're doing
When
there?
Cobble comes back into the pool, we'll see MSL have a resurgence. How about that?
I'm ready.
Only if he gets Magisk back, though. That's the only way.
Yeah, and Kirby now that Kirby's good.
Yeah, okay. A lot of things have to fall into place for MSL to be the best Cobble IGL in the world again. Okay, so would you guys all go with that, though? Godsend and North are the probable favorites to make it through this?
Yeah, I think that's pretty likely.
I'd say, obviously, I think Endpoint without Thomas probably not. VP is always like a run, someone that can make a run.
Yeah.
They have so much talent. I can see them beating Godsend, as well as Gambit on the other side.
Yeah,
Gambit is obviously, they're always like super impressive whenever I play them in scrims or stuff. So they're definitely another threat on the other side. I haven't seen much of Havu, especially now that they have Yumpy. They really impressed me during Flashpoint 1, so I'd like to see them in Flashpoint 2 again. Especially playing with, I don't know how well they'll play or not. I don't know how realistic it is for them to get through, but I wouldn't mind seeing that.
But they've also been playing with X7 too, so it's kind of like...
I
feel like
Havu, they're using MP.
Yeah, they are. Ents both have like 6-man rosters using like 2 of the same players.
That's weird, yeah.
That's what it feels like.
I would have taken Godsend and Fours, but Fours is like they're just so inconsistent. I don't know what happened between last year or the beginning of this year and now, but Fours are just not even close to the same caliber they used to be at. They used to actually really impress me when they used to go into tournaments, but
yeah, like they lost already to Nexus. It's just fortunate.
Yeah,
I'm looking at this qualifier, and you know what team fell off a freaking cliff is Heretics. Like, this team was really promising at the beginning of the year, but I've seen a few of their matches since then, and every time it feels like they're just kind of playing in this weird box that they cannot get themselves out of. Like, it's like they look so terrified to round corners sometimes that it's just like, why aren't you guys just swinging here?
I looked at the team list and I was like, oh, Heretics is in here, and then I looked and they were already out, so...
Yeah, they're already gone. Yeah,
So
they came in last place. Yeah.
They're also rumored to be losing Nivera, so it's not really spelling...
I don't think that's a rumor, is it? I think it just happened.
Did it already happen? I thought it was just a report.
It's a report.
But
It's a
might
report.
as well. But
Yeah,
that'll be interesting to happen. That'll kind of suck for Heretics.
The Vitality CEO or something like that did just tweet something like, "We just got done signing this player," and it's like, is that even legal that he just says that? But I mean, I don't know if the contract says or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know what? Why not just like give our little thoughts on Nivera then? Have you guys seen too much of him? What's inspired you about him?
Not too much. I haven't seen like too much of him. Was he? One thing that does inspire me a bit is I think he was he an offer before Heretics? That was like his main thing, and then he joined Heretics and he was still playing really well even though he wasn't. I wasn't too sure, but either way, he joined Heretics. He was playing really impressively from the start. So I'm really excited to see how he does.
I think
really
Professor from HLTV did a big feature piece on Nivera, just talking about his history and sort of how he developed. So he does speak about that a little bit.
He's been opping lately for them, from what I've seen. He opted against in their last BO3. I know that at least. So I think he's been
a
opting
lot of flexibility
at the close. At this closed qualifier, actually, in both BO3s, I know he was their opper. So I don't know if he's been moving around that position or not, but he's had some like really nice like, it's weird for like any opper you could say this about, really, but like he's had some really nice shots. Like he's hit some 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 difficulty shots from time to time. But the thing that I always get when I see that is like, is he just out of position right now? Is that why he had to hit a hard shot? You know, like that's so. I don't know if that, but he's been consistent statistically, so I assume that he's just working with what he's got. But it's kind of weird that Vitality do pick up a 6-man who is an opper because they have ZywOo, and that.
Well, I was saying because he's a good rifler as well, so I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So it'll be a lot of flexibility, which will be good for them, I think. And I'd like to see him. I don't know when, but I would like to see him play with them like this year sometime. Just like kind of another element, see how he does fragging wise. Because Miss Utah kind of just got thrown into the deep end from like ESEA main, so he's still been kind of struggling on a fragging basis. So
yeah, that was a weird pickup. But
it also gives them the opportunity to sort of allow ZywOo like an event break or something just to regenerate. Like he's a good replacement pick
to regenerate.
Yeah, to regenerate.
It's like parts of ZywOo are just falling off as he has to carry this team. Like, dude, like literally Shocks is just like clawing at his back so hard that just pieces are getting ripped off of him, and then ZywOo is just like must heal. And
ZywOo's like the head of Exodia. ZywOo's like the head of Exodia, and then each of the 4 pieces are just flashbangs made from the rest of his teammates.
every arm and leg has a flashbang. It's holding a flash.
Also, before I get killed, to correct myself, it was Lucas who wrote that feature piece, not Prof. That's
okay. All right. Yeah, want to cite our sources properly here.
Yes, exactly.
All right. This brings us all to the question of the week. Once again, this segment, if you weren't here last week, is meant to just kind of throw out a more general question to all of us here. It's can be a little bit philosophical in nature, maybe just a broad topic in general. I don't want to romanticize it too much, but here it is. Question of the week. What is the most underrated statistic? And of course, we are talking about Counter-Strike, so let's keep it within those realms.
COVID testing.
Let's go launders first. Let's go launders first on this one.
I really want to go first on this because I just worried that someone else would take it and then I wouldn't have a fallback. So it's just something that I feel like that I've tried to do a better job with on the broadcast, something that I feel like it goes unnoticed a little bit, something that we don't talk about enough and can't hammer home enough, and that's deaths per round. I think that is the most under talked about stat, most important stat that is right before our eyes, that some of the better minds in the game understand it's important to not die, but it's simply not a part of the common discourse to really talk about how little someone has died versus how many kills they've gotten. And in terms of talking about economic swings or like how many guns a team can buy in future rounds. It goes under the radar, 3-4 rounds after a really specific death, that you'll notice that there was a knock-on effect. A death resulted where they didn't need a death, resulted in a round where you can't buy. And if you're talking about 4, 5, or 6 rifle rounds and a half, that and some of these 1 or 2 deaths can be hugely impactful and not very much talked about. So that's why James is the best player in the game.
I was just about to segue with that, but I think deaths per round is definitely up there for one of the most underrated statistics in the game. I think I would place deaths per round as the top as the most underrated statistic. Second, maybe would come as like multi-kills per round, perhaps, or support rounds as a percentage, just based on overall contributions from teams. But deaths per round is such a crucial statistic because it really shows you the importance of staying alive in a lot of situations for players who play anchor roles, especially because you can have players who play very tough sites. Like, for example, if you're solo B on Mirage, you can't be a player who has a high DPR. Like, if you're a dedicated B player on Mirage and you have high DPR, you're doing something wrong.
yeah, surely.
And it does partially come down to roles, and like as most statistics will match up to different roles, but deaths per round is a sort of statistic that goes around for most types of players, regardless of the position or role you play. Because if you look at Simple, for example, his deaths per round are surprisingly low for a player with the sort of impact that he has. Like, it really goes to show you just how crucial the plays he makes are and how successful he pulls them off time after time, to the fact that he has such a high impact rating and such a low deaths per round. That really just well rounds him as a player.
Yeah, I want to say one thing about DPR that also plays into it. Like, not only one, are you just staying alive so your team can rotate in, that they can help you, that you're not dying so you're not giving up the bomb site, but also you're preserving money. So if you have a lot of people that have low DPR on a team, your economy is just simply going to be better into the next round, or you have more opportunities to play with weapons, likely speaking.
Well, Mix.
All right, Mix.
Oh,
yeah.
So I think
Mix.
Okay, so
No, that's
my stat was a bit. I went for something a bit different. So I actually went for it's still a good stat though.
He's gonna be like communication.
Comms per round, idle time in TeamSpeak.
Comms per rounds. In the US, it'd probably be COVID testing, probably the most underrated stat.
Oh my god.
But in Counter-Strike, I was gonna say, I think CT side 5v4s is actually like the actual statistic of it, and like how much you're converting it is very important, because I think that actually says how where your picks, like where your 5v4s are coming from, and like how successful you are after them. Because it's like, if you have like a low percentage of CT 5v4s, more than likely you're just getting traded all the time. So like, you're just finding one kill and it's like you get like the opening kick, but if you just get traded immediately, you're not really benefiting from it. So I think you'll see teams like with high CT side percentage round wins. Like, obviously it seems very simple, but they'll have very high 5v4s, and that's because they're putting themselves in positions to get those picks and actually make use of them. They're not just getting exec'd onto a site and traded and stuff.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up, because something I noticed about Dignitas at Flashpoint 1 is that they actually were pretty good at opening picks. Like, they had these game plans to find themselves opening kills, but their 5v4 percentage was, I think, the lowest in the tournament. And it was just like, they just didn't know what to do after. It felt like they didn't know how to set up or how to be comfortable once they found that opening pick. It's like they went over that first part of the round, but then now how do we play our number advantage? Are we consistently converting this? And if the answer is no, then it's like something is definitely wrong with just like the way you are settling into rounds.
Yeah, like on United, when I joined, I remember like the first 3 LAN events they played, their 5v4 percentage, I'm not even shitting you, was like 55%. Like,
oh my god.
There was events where I looked on our 5v4 percentage on the T side, and it was literally like 45%. Like, I'm not even like,
what the hell?
So yeah, like how low your 5v4 percentage, and like on your T side your 4v5 percentage as well, because that's also kind of telling like how, like where you're actually losing kills, if you're getting trades and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think those kills are very telling to like how successful your actual attack is.
Yeah, okay. Does anybody have anything else to say about that stat?
Well, when you mentioned that, the first team I wanted to look up just to check was Furia, because obviously Art does both of those. Like he'll have the first kill a lot of the time, but he'll get traded, or he'll also just be the first step. Furia's statistics for this are absolutely insane. So across all 6 of the maps they play, they have more or less between 74 and 76% win percent after getting the first kill. And when considering the amount of times that Art goes for an opening pick, that's a pretty ridiculous statistic to have. They also are ranging between 30 and 35% for round win percent after receiving the first death.
Yes.
For context, what are like the averages like for other teams?
So usually it'll hover around like a good team will hover around 70% for round win percent after first kill. Excellent teams like Astralis in their peak
80.
days were at like 80, 85 on Nuke, I think. Yeah. Like their Nuke first kills.
85 is like kind of unheard of. Like that is impossible.
85 is like domination.
Yeah, that was Astralis' like Nuke 2027 or whatever that map streak was. They had some ridiculous number, like 83% or something like that. But yeah, in general, like that's a very good illustration of how good teams are at trading off players.
Yeah, I think the average for 5v4% is around 70 flat for pro teams, and for 4v5% it's probably like 26%.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Furia's like round doesn't change very much when someone dies, right? Because they're like already playing it like it's a 4v5.
They already knew they were ready for that to begin with. Yeah. Okay. My stat is trade percentage. Actually, I think the amount of times you're trading just indicates how well you're moving as a pack, how well you believe in the game plan. And for context here, FaZe, who went out in pretty much last place at ESL Pro League Europe, was tied for the worst trade percentage in the tournament with like a 17.9%. Like there were like 5 teams that had a high 17.8 or 17.9%, so they're all roughly the same. But at Pro League, or I mean not a Pro League, at IEM, they had a tournament best 22%. And that's just like, I feel like it's just so indicative that if you have above 20% on the stat, so let me just break down the stat very briefly. It's that you kind of are aiming for around, like, you would want 20%. I think that's the average, but you would actually really want 25% because that means every single round, if someone dies, on average, one of those deaths are being traded. Assuming you lose all 5 players. Assuming you lose like five players, because there's only 4 deaths that can get traded. So like, if you're getting 1 trade per round, you're getting 25%. If you're getting 2 trades per round, 50%, 3, 75, 4. Wait, actually, I'm sorry. The best you can, this is you lose out on 20% of the stat simply because if the last player dies, he cannot get traded ever. So you actually, the most you can get is 80% on the statistic, assuming all 5 players died in a round. So anything above 20% it actually means you're trading more than 1 death per round for a team. So when teams are under 20%, then they are not, like, there can be a round where all 5 of them die and no one got a trade, even if they're like at 17% on the statistic. So I've noticed that teams that have any semblance of structure, like Furia is actually kind of particularly bad at this stat because Art doesn't get traded a lot of the time. But a lot of other teams, like Astralis, for example, FaZe when they do well, Vitality almost always does very well at this stat. They are going to have very high trade percentages. And teams that usually make it deep into tournaments will generally like be a little bit more cohesive in terms of their game plan and structure. So they'll have high trade percentages. But I noticed that teams that are bottoming out of tournaments will generally have very low trade percentages. And there's multiple reasons for that. Like maybe they just got completely shit on in multifrag, but if you can't kill someone who's multifragging you, that kind of says something about your spacing or the exec that you threw, or are people making too many individual plays in rounds? Like Fnatic,
it's happening like over and over to the point where your percentage is getting destroyed. It's probably a sign of a bigger problem.
Yeah, and that's the reason I think Fnatic are really bad online, is that their trade percentage is always bad. Their trade percents are like at IEM Europe, it was 16%. Like that's actually quite bad. And Big went from having like the best trade percentage when they were winning all those tournaments, and now at IEM New York they had 15%. Like that's in the dark red. That's a bad percentage to have.
Yeah,
So I think
especially Fnatic style, it's so easy to like fall into like a bad trade percentage.
yeah. All right. That's gonna be it. That's gonna be it here. All right. Unless you guys have any more thoughts on stats, but I know Mix doesn't believe in them, so I mean it's just a damn shame.
I mean, he also believes in Mantu and MSL as top end game leader. So are we really relying on Mix at the moment?
Whoa,
I'm telling Henry about all of this.
Mantu, top IGL, never.
Mantu
MSL,
type IGL. MSL
sure.
best offer.
Fuck it, maybe. I'm sorry. How many? MSL does have a HLTV MVP. I would like to remind you of that.
Feels like
MSL
yesterday.
one MVP, Mantu 0. Just MSL greater than Mantu confirmed. All right. Well, that'll be it here. Launders, do you have anything you want to plug as we close this one out?
YouTube channel, youtube.com/csboxer. Upload every single day.
Yes, you have been absolutely killing it here. You are literally owning the space right now. Coach Lau has been on top of things. Would you want to be a coach for a team at any point?
Maybe like down the line, but I like having hair, so it doesn't seem like an amazing. I don't know, like it, coming in as like a Sonic or something seems like not just the ideal situation, but the only smart idea if you can get into a team that like with that much control. But otherwise, it seems like a nightmare, honestly.
I want to say one thing, and this is, I thought I would stop with the podcast on this, but it's just true, okay? In North America, the best coaches have all been brown. Like, so you're already fitting the bill there. We can think of Chet, and we can think of Valens.
We started with casual racism, we end with casual racism.
It's okay. It's just pointing out that has been the case there. And a brown friend brought that up to me. So that's my past. That's my past.
I have brown friends, dude. Jesus Christ.
Oh no, where am I going with this? No, okay. No, but I had to bring it up again. It's just
opening coach win percentage for brown coaches is really high right now.
NA brown coaches 1 major, NA non-brown 0. So just saying.
Yeah, I was speaking as to like your lack of control. On some teams, you'll get in trouble for telling your players to not be late. So definitely a good call there.
Like, yeah.
I get in trouble just for tweeting that at North American players. So
yeah. Okay, to close it out, my shout out is I do recognize that saying budget launders and everything like that is a microaggression, and I'll just refrain from that in the future. So
this podcast is about male toxicity, right? Toxic.
Yeah. All right, that's gonna be it here. Unless Node and Mix, you guys have anything? Mix.
My closing statement is just C9 shout out, and MSL is the greatest IGL and opper of Counter-Strike.
Gotcha.
Follow me on Twitter down there. Wow, I'm
close.
Down there.
It's like the guy putting his finger around the moon in the photographs, and he's just like, yeah. And it's like not even
right now.
Listen, if I missed it, then they're following one of you, so you guys just have to tweet at me more.
Dub.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. Okay. That's going to be it for It's Server Time episode 3. Oh, last shout out. Jesus Christ. Forgot this one. We have started the Patreon. So if you guys want to support the podcast, this is going to be spread to me, Note, Mix, and the producer. Be sure to donate to that. That'll be in the description of this YouTube video. So check that out below. So click the subscribe button, click the bell, and click the Patreon, and try to make it to... The tiers are off of ESEA League. So do you want to be an open player? Shitty. Or do you want to be an MDL player? All right, some eyeballs are on you. So make your choice. Donate to the Patreon, and catch us next week.